After a dramatic finish yesterday in Agrinio, welcome to stage 2 of the 20th edition of the Tour of Hellas. Today's stage is the only mountaintop finish we'll see in this year's edition at almost 1,000 metres. We have 2 King of the Mountains, 2 sprints, with a total elevation gain of just over 3,100 metres. My name is Brian Smith and I'll be guiding you through the stage today, yet again. So Agrinio was our finish yesterday, and it's our start today. The riders will face 177.5 kilometres. So we start in the west, and we will be going east from Agrinio, the start position today, along the Gulf of Corinth, past Thermo, Pamphium, where we will see the first sprint of the day, heading over towards the Gulf of Corinth, along the Gulf coast. Very pretty indeed it is. We continue along these coastal towns into Itea, and then we start to head up to Delphi. All uphill for the last 21 kilometres to a finish in Aranchova. With an elevation gain of just under 1,000 metres. So this is the only mountaintop finish we have. So a lumpy all day for the riders. 177.5 kilometres in length, with a very difficult final. So last minute adjustments for the riders, taking note of the sprints in the King of the Mountains. A lot's expected of the Astana team today. The Greek team are ready. Missed the breakaway yesterday. Will they try and get in it today? That's the question. There's their national champion, Arvanatu. So a very experienced team is XTS Astana. Gleb Syriza wearing the red jersey of the points jersey. He's third in that competition. Leading that is Moschetti. But this man here on the left hand side deciding that he wants to keep riding his national champs jersey. So there's our leader, Moschetti. Very much doubt he'll be the leader at the end of the day. But he had a very good win yesterday, just nipping up the barrier sides. The door was left open by Groenewegen, and he nipped through and took the stage. So we have 9 kilometres earlier of neutralisation. Yesterday we had 7 riders in the breakaway. Who is going to control the day? Who thinks they can win the general classification? Because this is a big test. And the first rider to attack is in fact the King of the Mountains, George Radcliffe, who has that navy blue King of the Mountains jersey on. The 2 King of the Mountains come in today very early on in the stage, and it was very, very active. Parkhouse Valkenburg team in the green trim in the shorts. Is that Zabok there also trying to get in the breakaway? He was in the breakaway yesterday, possibly trying to gain that King of the Mountains with the points he's already got. But eventually we had a group of 9 riders, 2 more than we had yesterday. We also had a rider from both national teams, Cyprus and Greece. So in the first sprint of the day, it was Vincent Hopsack of the Valkenburg team. So the Parkhouse Valkenburg rider taking the 3 seconds and the 3 points from Riska, from the Rinklo, and Sidlo from the Monzon. So the 9 riders continued to work together. And then it was Sidlo at the first King of the Mountains at Thermo. He took maximum points, so he took the 5 points. Napaktos, one of the pretty villages along the way to the finish today, along the Gulf of Corinth. The Gulf of Corinth itself, 130 kilometres long, between 8.4 kilometres and 32 kilometres wide. And this is where we are on the stage, right bang, pretty much in the middle. So both King of the Mountains gone. I can tell you that Sidlow, Daniel Sidlow of the Monzon in colour team in the white there, 124. Well, he won both of those, and he will lead that competition. Zabok in the breakaway. He was in the breakaway yesterday in the red there for the Mazowski team. He took a few points, second in the first one, third in the second. And he's on 8 points. Radcliffe, the overnight leader from yesterday, is down in third place with 5 points. So we will see Sidlow change that white jersey into the navy blue jersey for tomorrow. So the 9 riders we have with an advantage of 355. We have Maximilian Cabas and Richard Riska of the Ringclow team. Already mentioned in the reds, Zabok is here, Sidlow in the white of the Monzon team. Vincent Hopsack. There's 3 green jerseys here. So the Parkhouse Valkenburg team is the dark green with the dark green flashes at the end of the bib shorts. The other 2 riders are the riders from Ringclow. They're both riders on the right hand side with the green socks. We have Jordi De Cointinis from Tartaletto, Konstantinos Pavlidis from Cyprus, Emiliano Via from Greece, and Avid Bento from the X-Speed team, the Israel rider. So earlier on today we had the team actually of Bikeade riding on the front, but this is a team that were riding towards the front yesterday but not actually on the front, and this is the team of XDS Astana. They never did any work at all yesterday. They managed to get Gleb Syriza, but there's their overnight leader. A really good sprint. 3rd victory of the season so far for Moschetti, and he'll be looking at other days in this race to add to that tally. But today, XDS Astana are really looking towards Harold Lopez and the veteran Diego Elise. So they have come here with one thing in mind, and that's to win the general classification. Gleb Syriza wearing the red jersey today, so his job today will be helping the team. And I just remind everybody they've got 3 riders from their development team, 2 of them Pierre-Henri Basset, Alessio Della Velbov, and also Gleb Syriza in the development team. Harold Lopez is here, Diego Elise and Simone Zanini. So no riders from Jaco Alula in the purple helping out at the front. Neither are Q36.5. So they were the teams that controlled the race today, but today it's about XTS Astana. A big GC day today, the only mountaintop finish, although we have got arguably the hilliest stage of the race coming on stage 4, which is over 600 metres in elevation gain, more than today, because most of it comes in the last climb. The last climb comes in 2 parts. So we start that with about 21.8 kilometres to go. Still a long way to go. But there's Dylan Groenewegen. Not too sure. He was happy with the situation yesterday, opening the door for Moschetti to take that victory. In my book, if he'd have kept his straight line, he'd have probably won the stage. So a lot of hard work. The maximum advantage the riders had in front, it almost got up to about 6 minutes. But now it's been pared back quite significantly now to about 3.5 minutes. This man here, Sidlow, he'll be changing that white jersey to the navy blue jersey of the King of the Mountains. I was saying in my commentary yesterday that 7 riders, quite significant, but we've got 9 riders here. The rider just coming to the front for the X-Speed team. He actually had a puncture, but made it back in to the leading group of 7 riders. So we drove this early evening last night. Very beautiful part along the Gulf of Corinth. Many pretty villages. Quite a lot of fish farms. The local fish here being sea bass, sea bream, sardines and snappers. For you that like your fish dishes. So it's very much undulating throughout this part of the stage. So we've already dealt with the 2 King of the Mountains. So we have a new leader in that competition. We've had 1 sprint so far. The second sprint of the day comes at Aitea, at the bottom of the main or the finishing climb of the day. But I think we have to touch on some of the GC contenders from yesterday. We had that nasty crash just over 4 kilometres out. So unfortunately for some of the riders, the 3 kilometre rule didn't stand. We lost 1 rider, Jack Clark from X-Speed United. He was the rider worst affected by that crash in the run-in yesterday. But some riders lost time. Valerio Conti for Team Solution Tech Vinny Fantini. Well, he's at 37 seconds. Former stage winner of the Vuelta. Chris Odd Eiking is at 37 seconds as well. Harm van Hoek lost 48 seconds. But I think most notably was last year's winner, Ricardo Zoido, is at 53 seconds down. And I think that's one of the reasons he's got 2 riders in the breakaway. So he's got Maximilian Cabas and Richard Riska in the breakaway. Is that with a view to try and win the stage, or is he allowing these 2 riders an opportunity to try and go for the stage themselves? Well, they've lost since XDS Astana came to the front. They've lost a couple of minutes, but they're still working well together, all 9 riders here. I think the other rider we have to mention is Luke Platt. He's at 17 seconds off the overall, but I think it will be all changed today with the mountaintop finish. And of course we are at the finish in Arankova. It was only about an hour ago we had a thunderstorm passing by, so thunderstorms are predicted. Not much of a wind today. Any wind that's actually helping, a westerly wind. This rider here was in the breakaway yesterday, Poshacker. And in this part of the world, as we're heading east, looking over to the west, very difficult to see there, but in the distance there, you've got the Rio Arterial Bridge, which the riders went over yesterday. And it does get some of the best sunsets in this part of the world. So at the front there, we have one of the young riders, the Italian rider, Alessio Del Vedove. Doing a good job so far, bringing this gap down. So it's good to see both national teams represented here. At the front there, you've got Emiliano Villa the blue and the white of Greece. Just coming to the front now. Team of Cyprus just having a spot of lunch is Konstantinos Pavlidis, 23-year-old. The best placed of these riders in the front group is in fact Zabok, who was in the breakaway yesterday, so he is the virtual leader. So you can see the pace is on in the peloton. Kind of stretched in one line for most of the stage yesterday. It was kind of bunched up. So definitely going to be a fast stage, including the tough final. But a couple of riders have got their kind of rain capes on, as Julie's. So we have had a few showers, as we can see from the lenses, starting to spit a rain a little bit now. Jerome Myers from the Vittoria Sports Pro Cycling team just at the back here. So it really was a bit of a nasty crash in the run-in yesterday. Only lost one rider, which is a surprise. These riders are made of strong stuff. Just like yesterday, we saw some of these lovely drone shots. It really is a beautiful part of the world. I've come on holiday to many of the islands, just like most English speaking or British. I've come to Greece. Majority of them go to the islands, unless you like a city holiday to visit Athens. But really the mainland of Greece, I've been taking plenty of pictures and posting some of that stuff on my own Instagram feed. There are some real pretty parts, and this is no exception up in the mountains here. Just looking across the Gulf of Corinth. The Gulf of Corinth, as I said just a moment ago, 130 kilometres long. Where we started yesterday in Patra, that's where it finishes, where we get the Rio Ontario Bridge. But on the opposite side, you've got the Corinth Canal, and that was completed in 1893. And the reason for that was so that the ships don't have to go all the way around the South Islands and the South mainland of Greece and take the long route. So in 1993 they built the Corinth Canal, which allowed the boats to take the shortcut through the Gulf of Corinth into mainland Europe. But only 24.6 metres width. It's now impassable by modern ships, but mostly a tourist information. So we will see this throughout the day. Well, the temperatures are fairly high. Just these showers of rain. And this is just a lovely view of this chain reaction. Back in the UK, they call these chain gangs, where you take your turn at the front, swing over. It's just like the chain movements across the cogs at the back and the outer chain ring. So it just shows you 3 minutes separate the breakaway and the peloton. It's dry here, and they'll be heading into the shower. So I was just saying a moment ago, the XTS Astana team, one of 2 World Tour teams from Kazakhstan, didn't do any work at all yesterday, but I've been left to do the majority of the work today so far. Delavidov, 21-year-old, and it looks as if Gleb Syriza is the other rider that is going to help. So they've got another young French rider, Basset, 21. Even Simone Zanini is 21. Harold Lopez from Ecuador, I think the main GC hope, is only 24. Diego Alesi, 35, 8 stages in the Giro d'Italia. So they've got experience in the team, but potentially Harold Lopez is their go-to man for today. The 2 climbs we had today, one was 10.9 kilometres in length, the other 5.5, but between 3 and 4%. Although we're on the flattest part of the stage today, right in the middle of it, it's slightly undulating along this coast road. Plenty of twists and turns as we meander along the coastline. So now I was watching a live ticker. I was a little bit surprised to see 2 riders from the Rincau team. One of them being Maximilian Cabas, the 23-year-old Austrian, and Richard Riska, the 19-year-old Slovakian. Cabas himself only at 53 seconds. There's a lot of riders losing a little bit of time because of that crash yesterday. And the surprise was that they've come here with defending champion, and that was Ricardo Zoido. They got 1 and 2 last year in this race, but that crash meant that Zoido started with a 53-second deficit. And I know that's to Moschetti, but that's 43 to Lopez of XTS Astana. Gleb Syriza, good 3rd place finish yesterday. He was on the wheel of Dylan Groenewegen. Unfortunately, just couldn't come past. -18 northwesterly winds. And that's the wind that's kind of helping them along this coastline, although we are meandering left and right along the coast. So this gap continuing to come down. 2:48 now. So a good job being done by just the one rider from the XTS Astana team. I think for these riders not to panic today, just to keep rolling through it. Here are some of the riders that pretty much all of the XTS Astana team. So some of the riders to look out for today. So Alesi and Lopez in the first page there. Our favourites. Harm van Hoek. Oh, you lost 48 seconds yesterday. He had some good days in the Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago. But I think watch out for the Unibet Titama Rockets team today. They've got Carboni, Christian Odd-Eiking and Adrian Mare. So these riders just continuing to work well together. Nobody missing a turn at the beat at the back of this group. Just going through in one string. Just a real steady tempo. I think at this stage, with the King in the Mountains, one of the sprints gone, it's a case of just keeping it real steady. A very difficult final in this stage today. Just over 21 kilometres uphill. So Team Vorarlberg here. Zangurli. So with 4 of the XDS Astana team, we just saw that Simone and Alesi moving up, and they're soon joining. They're just joining now. So 6-man teams here at the Tour of Hellas, although Q36.5, the only team to start with 5 riders. Actually nice to see this in the daylight. We passed along here last night when it was dark. You could see the lights. A lot of these small villages kind of dotted along the banks of the Gulf of Corinth. The gap just coming down a little bit more now. Just one rider. You can see the pace is on, because normally if it's not, it's kind of a little bit more bunched up. So the young Italian here doing a very good job. Clearly hear the squeal of the disc brakes. I can assure you that just before commentary I was outside. It was sunny, although a little cool up here in Anchovia. But this was predicted. It was predicted yesterday, and we pretty much had sun all day. Good stage yesterday, and then after the stage we had a little bit of rain. You can see most of the riders at the front. Although that rider there, just a couple of riders there from Q36.5 having the gilets on, but most riders all stripped down to race. Just an indication there of the length of this convoy behind this main peloton. So another little bump for the riders to go over. I said it's not entirely flat. It's the flattest part of the stage today. It's gently rolling up and down. And this stage a little bit longer than we had yesterday, but 37 kilometers longer in length. And the gap continues to come down second by second. Just the one rider riding for XDS Astana. So before we came to air, we had the Breakaway team come to the front and do a little bit of work. Well, last year they had Anton Schiffer winning the King of the Mountains here. I've got a couple of decent climbers. So temperature dropped a little bit in the rain, as it normally does, 15 degrees. I'm really impressed with this rider at the front here, 2:18. The gap was about 5.5 minutes before XDS Astana came to the front en masse. It's just been the one rider Delvidov, and you think that Syriza, well, if he's got a job to do, that job will be done before we hit the final climb. So good to see. In fact, Emiliano Vila from Greece at the front, 27-year-old. Third last year in his national championship. He's already ridden a few races this year already, Tour de Rhodes. He's finished 65th overall. And of course, as I mentioned just before, Pavlidis of the national Cypriot team, who actually finished 2 places behind him in the Tour of Rodez. It's 67th. So yesterday it was all about that sprint finish in Q36.5, and Jaco Alula today, a GC day. We've got 2 GC days, 3 potential bunch sprint days. So this is the first of the general classification days. And tomorrow, potentially, looks like a sprint stage, although it's quite hilly. Second category climb, a third category climb over 151, but I think it will be a sprint finish. And then of course we go on to, I think, the Queen stage of this year's Tour of Hellas, at stage 4, over 185 kilometres, 3,764 metres in elevation. Second category climb near the end, but it's a downhill finish to the Olympic Village. And then we have a bit of a circuit around Athens on the final stage. So this really is the first test of the general classification riders. I've done this job myself. Dela Vidov is doing. It's not an easy task. You need someone with experience. You can just see the most experienced rider, I think, in the race, Diego Elise, just on the radio there again. He'll be determining how quickly he rides. But this gap continuing to come down. 2:07 now. So for the moment anyway, they're only needing to use up one rider. Back to the front here. 1:35. Vincent Hopsack of the Parketel Valkenburg team from the Netherlands. Started the day at 1:02. Of course, he won that first sprint, taking 3 seconds, so you're about 59 seconds virtually. Pavlidis of Cyprus, 23-year-old, 250 down in general classification. We saw this man yesterday. Zabok from Maszowski, Sergei Polski, 24-year-old, best placed of the group in front at 50 seconds. So still the virtual leader, but this gap continuing to creep down. Just going through this feed zone. Oh, it's a miss there from Aviv Bento. He's got a second chance. Can he get it? Nope. So 0 from 2. So it'll be a case of hand up, getting something from the car behind. So the Israeli rider Aviv Bento riding for the Canadian team of X-Speed United Continental. As we see the national champions jersey, briefly, of Panama. Roberto Carlos Gonzalez. And of course, 2 riders from Panama in that team. Carlos Samudio joins them. So just pulling that jelly on to stay warm. So now we're through the feed station, or one of them. The next town will be Eratini. Inhabitants of only about 800. But if anybody remembers, there was an earthquake in this area in 1995. The AU earthquake, and it affected this village as well as many others in this area. Always a dangerous zone, this, the feed zone. Riders desperate to take bottles, musettes. So a bit of debris in the floor, as we see, a lot of riders missing bottles. Again, another miss. I think a lot of it is to do with possibly wet hands. wet bottles as well. Probably the easiest thing to do from experience is to take a bag with a couple, 2 or 3 bottles in it, rather than take the bottle. I'm not going particularly fast, but I'll do what that rider did there from Equinox. Not the second one, oh yeah, second one, but the first rider from Equinox. He just slowed right down, made sure he got that bottle. But there's always a lot of dangers in feeding stations because the rider's dropping bottles, and if you get one hand in the handlebars, you don't want to be hitting a full bottle. So a lot easier sometimes to grab a musette. Here we see Han van Hooker sitting at 48 seconds, just putting his dually on. Han van Hooker for Q36.5.
Βρισκόμαστε στην τελευταία ανηφόρα του δεύτερου ετάπ που έχει απόσταση 177 χιλιόμετρα και υψομετρική διαφορά πάνω από 3.000 μέτρα. Είναι λίγα μόλις χιλιόμετρα πριν τον τερματισμό το σημείο που βρισκόμαστε τώρα. Ήδη οι ποδηλάτες έχουν κάνει 2 σπριντ ευθείας και 2 σπριντ ανάβασης, περνώντας το Θέρμο, την Ιταία και ανηφορίζοντας προς τον τερματισμό που είναι στην Αράχοβα. Ο τερματισμός αναμένεται συγκλονιστικός και πολλές διαφορές ίσως δημιουργηθούν σε αυτό το σημείο. Είμαστε ακριβώς στο σημείο του τερματισμού του δεύτερου ετάπ στην Αράχοβα. Κάνοντας την ανηφόρα μπορώ να πω ότι οι αθλητές θα περάσουν δύσκολα τα τελευταία χιλιόμετρα. Μεγάλη απόσταση ανηφόρας, μεγάλες κλήσεις και σίγουρα κάποιος αν θέλει να κερδίσει εδώ θα πρέπει να υποφέρει πάρα πολύ. Ο τερματισμός όμως θα είναι συναρπαστικός και θα δημιουργηθούν μεγάλες διαφορές ανάμεσα στους αθλητές και ένα μικρό προβάδισμα ίσως για την νίκη στο φετινό Γύρο Ελλάδος.
Thank you, Nikos. Yeah, the riders certainly have a tough stage today. Be tough for this man, but I don't think he'll be too worried about it. He's got his stage win. He is leading the general classification. Always nice to get stage win and have that leader's jersey. I think he'll be losing it. Well, I don't think, I know he'll be losing it today. But he'll be thinking of stage 3 and the last stage in Athens. This man here, well, he was beaten by a faster man, but he left the door open. He's second in the points competition, but decided, and as a rule state, he can ride his national champs jersey. A little bit annoyed after the stage, but I'm sure he'll be back for more. Again, potentially stage 3 and the final stage in Athens. Over 70 career wins. Wasn't able to add to it yesterday, but we'll be thinking over the next few days. And this is the man that's third in the points competition, wearing the red points jersey. This gap continuing to come down to 147. Just one man from XDS Astana riding at the fronts. Just before we heard from Nikos Papageris, I was just talking about Harm van Hoek, who's second, 2 times third actually, in stages of the Giro d'Italia way back in 2021 and 20. It's a long career. Lotto Soudal, under 23. And then he went to the pro team for many years. He's with the Lotto Destiny last year and has just moved over to Q36.5. This year he's had a couple of decent performances, but nothing to shout about. But he'll be expected to be up there come the end. So this is the XDS Astana team. 3 of them from the development team. the rider in red, Gleb Saritsa. Well, he was riding with the World Tour team last year. Surprise to me and many others that they dropped him down into the development team. But he's getting plenty of opportunity to race at this high level. Here we have our Greek champion at the back, Arvanati. And also our Cypriot champion, Miltiados. And although all 9 riders contributing here, the gap still coming down. I think come the end they were going to need that 5 minutes at the bottom of the climb, I think, if they were going to survive. So the race is being completely controlled by XDS Astana. So just looking at that gap and the speed that these riders are going at the moment over the last hour, since XDS Astana have come to the front, the gap has dropped just over 3 minutes. With the speed at the front, it's shown at the back. So a totally different complex from yesterday, with the majority of the day the peloton were kind of bunched up. I'll just go through some of the riders in the breakaway again. 101 there is Maximilian Cabas in the green with the long green socks. He's got a teammate here at the back, the 104, Ricardo Riska, 19-year-old Slovakian. So Cabas with the orange glasses. We know about this man here, Zabok. Actually in this stage last year finished third in the second stage of the Tour of Hellas. In the white there, we never saw them in the break yesterday. The Monzon in colour team, 21-year-old Hungarian Sidlo, Daniel Sidlo, who is taking maximum points in both King of the Mountain, so he will lead. So we see him in the podium at the end of today's stage. So Lopez just looking and concentrating. Big job for him today, a man from Ecuador. And of course, over the last decade, we're seeing so many top riders coming from Ecuador. And by the looks of things, he'll be their go-to man today. Let's see what Diego Lazy can do, because he started the season quite well, and he'll be great support for Lopez. Although this climb is long enough, is it steep enough? The average is between 2% and 8% maximum. But it's a long climb in 2 parts. First part up to Delphi, and then we've got a small descent, and then all the way up to Arankova. Opportunity here for the Greek champion just to go back to the car. Possibly missed out in the feed like many did. Nice and relaxed, take some food. So still the same rider at the front here for XDS Astana, doing a terrific job here. Does it look as if Gleb Saritsa is enjoying himself, but hasn't been called to do any work as yet. And of course for Delavidov, his day will be done in about 30 kilometres time when we hit the climb. So Jordi de Coignes for the Tartaletto team, 23-year-old Belgium, started today at 2:46. He had a teammate in the breakaway yesterday who looked strong. So for some of these teams, the job is to try and get in that breakaway. Parkhouse, Park Hotel, Valkenburg just swinging off there. The winner of the first sprint, Hopzak, the Dutch rider. And good to see Avid Bent, although missing the bottles, he did manage to get back after an early puncture today. I thought at one moment he wasn't going to make it and we would have 8 riders left. Mikhail Pomorski of the Mazowski Cersei Polski team, 100% Polish team in this race. It's always the case sometimes when you're down the back, you just come through a rain shower, you start to feel a little bit cooler. Of course, when you're working a little bit harder, you don't feel the conditions. There's a team just sitting back there, and of course one of those riders within the Unibet Titama Rockets team just overlapped a whale in the run-in yesterday. Had to pull his foot out to kind of steady himself, which caused a reaction in the peloton, and hence that crash. But I think they'll be looking at Carboni, Christian Odd-Eiking. They've got a good team here, and they'll be wanting to get something back in return. Again with this northwesterly wind, they're not hanging around. 55 kilometres to go, 125 is the gap. Gives you some sort of indication of how well this young man Alessio Delavidov is riding. As this route continues to wind its way around the Gulf of Corinth. And again, for the peloton here especially, it's a case of just sitting and waiting. Everybody knows what's coming. Over 20 kilometres uphill. And possibly for me anyway, unlike yesterday, where I thought we'd kind of 3 clear favourites, although 2 with Gruneweg and Moschetti. I do believe that Lopez, Plapp are possibly kind of 2 favourites, but there's a lot of other riders in this field that'll be thinking otherwise. This gap continues to come down. 1 minute and 18 now. Terrific job. Maybe not for the riders in the breakaway, because he's killing it. But for his team, he's doing a terrific job. You can see Diego Alesi just talking to Lopez continually, using his experience, and that's valuable experience you've got. It doesn't all come from the team car. If you've got the experience in the team, and a road captain like Alesi, just continually to help your team along. And Lopez, still only 24. Just recently finished 13th in the Volta Ciclista Catalunya just last week. 9th in Milano Torino, a race that I covered. Finished up Suberga, which is a very difficult climb. So a rider that is clearly on form. So it's important to keep Lopez motivated, and I think that's what Diego Alesi is doing. Just making sure he's eating and drinking, because it definitely is a day for him, and he's shown the form there. I think the other kind of overall contender I was mentioning, Luke Plapp again, 24-year-old. Started the season in the Santos Tour Down Under, finished 6th overall. And then this is his first race back in Europe. So what is his form? I think a couple of question marks over that. Here's our race leader with a team manager I know well, Daniele Neri. Daniele Neri and his brother have been involved with cycling for such a long time. Based out of Lucca in Italy. And Daniele Neri, originally a mechanic. Used to mechanic in some of the teams. Got involved with the MTN Quebec development team. Now finds himself in the role as a manager. It's not the first person that's moved from a role within a team into management. It's not about always having experience in race scenarios, but it's how well you get on with the riders, how you motivate them. Being liked is a major part as well. And you have to enjoy being part of a team to get the best out of the riders. So for the first time, the gap going up a little bit, came down to about 118 there. Just moving up a little bit on this drag through the tunnels here. And I think for this group of 9, just trying to stay together as long as possible, trying to come to the bottom of the climb with as much as advantage as possible. So this wasn't the first attack of the day. It took a few kilometres for these 9 riders to get together. You see a couple of the riders there starting to suffer a little bit in the breakaway. I think first grimace of the day we've seen from Alessio Delavedove, the young Italian. Still able to talk on the radio, of course. You see what that's done. Just a kick back in the pace at the moment. A little bit more bunching up at the back of the peloton. And of course it's these small undulations that continue to hurt the legs. A few glances to the side. It really is a lovely course road along the Gulf of Corinth. I'll say it again, I said it already in this broadcast, that many people when they come to Greece, they come to the islands, have been to Santorini, Kos, Rhodes. I'm actually coming back here in a month's time to Corfu. Many people go to the islands, but from what I've seen so far, there's a lot to be seen in the mainland Greece. A lot of these kind of small villages. Of course, the Greek food, the Mediterranean food. We were starting in Agrinio, where in the past it was tobacco was the trade, but now they've got olive oil and red wine. Yet to taste it, of course. They were throwing it away in the podium yesterday. But yeah, just looked through some of the shops here around Aranchova. Plenty of honey, local produce. Of course, the winners of the competitions were getting their picnic basket of some of this local produce as well. Didn't think they got much snow here in Greece, but believe me, where we finished today at the Paranassos Ski Centre, it's the largest in Greece, attracts ski and snowboard enthusiasts during the winter, of course. The finish is just around 1,000 metres, a bit further up at that ski station. I think it goes up to about 2,400 metres, I believe. A lot of tourists come to this area. When we got here earlier on this morning, just kind of setting up, there's about 3 or 4 buses passed, filled with tourists, all coming from Athens. You come up to Aranchova, down to Delphi, and of course Delphi with the Temple of Apollo. I'll come to that as we get nearer, but plenty of places to see for tourists from throughout the world. So it's not just about coming here to the party islands. So the gap gone up now, 1:43, but you can see a little bit more speed in the peloton now. They are happy to be in the breakaway, although their face doesn't tell you that. A lot of the thought process about and getting in the breakaway starts earlier on, before the race actually starts, in the team meetings. Well, the team will decide whether you go in the breakaway or not, and I think for the most part it was good to get in the breakaway. We could see that George Radcliffe, the Brit in the King of the Mountains jersey, tried to earlier on but failed, maybe a little bit too keen. He was the first attacker. But this man here in the white, stolen that jersey off his shoulders. Daniel Sidlow, the 21-year-old Hungarian rider. So the teams will decide in their meetings whether they go in the breakaway or not, and what is the goal. There will be a goal for every stage and overall from each of these teams. And the goal for me, for XDS Astana, is for the general classification. They never got involved yesterday at all, never chased for Gleb Syriza. I think it's a bit of a two-pronged attack for the other two teams of Q36.5 and Dylan Groeneweggen's team of Jacob Lula. He was riding towards the front there, just happy to sit and get this stage, get to the finish, look for tomorrow. It's always a problem I had, as somebody that's ridden glasses. Yep. It's good to have a paper napkin, because the jersey is a little bit damp. It's always very difficult to see. Of course, once you start wiping your glasses, it starts to smear. You see sometimes riders dropping back to the car and actually exchanging or asking the car to clean their glasses for them. But such as cycling, all bike riders using glasses. And of course they do photochromic glasses these days, which change with the light. Most of the riders using glasses at the moment are non-photochromic. So it's Gerard de Jong, a bit of Dutch influence. We are working with NEP, Dutch company, which are a cameraman or editors, everything, production. So a little bit of Dutch help. So Dylan Groeneweggen, just thankful there of getting that paper napkin so he can see, but I'm not too sure he'll want to see the mountain coming up. See Gleb Syriza not happy in the red jersey there with not being able to see, the rain flicking off the wheel in front. It stopped raining, of course, but you get that spray up off the wheels in front. It goes to the glasses and you have to see. If you look up to the left hand side in the clouds, that's where we're going. Straight on up, we come along the coast again, we get to Aitea, we turn left, got possibly a few kilometres of flat, and then it starts to go uphill. I would say it's a nice climb. It was kind of difficult to see much in the dark last night, but I've seen it this morning from on top. We stayed in Delphi last night, then came up to Harankova, and from what I see, it looks like a really nice climb. Not really steep, but a good racing climb. So these guys will not hang around. But it's long enough to make the difference. And of course, for many of these riders, from that managers meeting in the morning, sitting in the Peloton, we said about the sprinters having to sit there all day and then having to sprint. In the case of yesterday, after 140 kilometres, for a lot of the GC contenders, can play mind games on you, because your job will be done in these final 20 kilometres. And we can see that Diego Lees was just talking to Harold Lopez, just making sure he's okay, just making sure the goal is there. It's a good breakaway to be in, nobody missing a turn. Sometimes you get in a breakaway where there's races within a race. there's a sprint coming up, but for many of these riders, 3, 2 and 1 seconds, I don't think it's going to make any difference. Best placed is Zabok from Machowski, started at 50 seconds. But I think being in the breakaway all day, 1:30, even if it's 1 minute hitting the climb at the end, I don't think that'll be enough. So I think for a lot of these riders, knowing that the gap is 1:30, the big climb come to the finish, I don't think the seconds are going to make any difference. But let's see, they've fought for them so far in this race. Of course, no King of the Mountains points to be won. Normally you would have them at the stage finish, but we had 2 today and they're been already dealt with. So it's a case of these riders just hoping and wishing that they had the bottom of this climb with a good advantage. Doesn't look like it for the moment anyway, courtesy of the young Italian rider Delavidov of XTS Astana. But this is what you want, full cooperation in a breakaway. Galaxida. Plenty of these small villages dotted along this coast. So yesterday I think I said in commentary, a little bit disappointed we've never seen anybody from Greece or Cyprus in the breakaway. Good to see them in here today. Of course, for the Greek team, it is their home race. It's always nice to get themselves seen on television in your home race. So just at the back of the peloton here, Davide Lozano for the Nova Nordis team, a team 100% of Team Type 1 diabetics, and they made that decision not that long ago. I think going back to the car again to get his glasses cleaned. And I was saying, I'm just looking at these Akoi glasses, I think they might be the ones, the E-lens ones, that actually change with the light, the photochromics. But yeah, the team of Novo Nordisk over recent years only have riders with type 1 diabetes. So 2 riders here from the Rinko team, Cabas and Riska. I think when you get yourself in a breakaway, you're always looking and hoping that you've got an opportunity of the stage win. But with 1:27 and the job being done by XDS Astana, I don't think that's going to be the case today. On the right hand side, Mark Stewart, the Scots, number 46, silver medalist in Paris Olympic Games, riding this race and maybe finishing on Sunday, hopefully, in the home of the Olympics. Been impressed also, as well as the young Italian from XDS Astana, that this group of 9 riders, the cohesion there is all you ask when you get yourself in the breakaway. So I was just mentioning a moment ago that sometimes you get riders thinking about other competitions, but they are helping each other. So just a difference there, all lined out in the peloton behind each other, one rider doing the work. In the break, there are 2 lines, all 9 riders helping each other. So 9 riders against 1, and this one man is killing it at the front here. Just started to show some signs of fatigue, but this is what you do, being part of a team. If you believe that you've got a man that can win this race, you go above and beyond, and he certainly has done today. Raining again. Just going to have a wee look outside. No, just a quick open the door and looked outside, and it's dry outside for the moment anyway. So the majority of the rain, we might be above the clouds. Majority of the rain below. A lot of riders still continuing to take their gels. And believe it or not, as a former team manager, that's something that you have to keep on telling the riders. To eat and drink the whole time. I'm not saying they're forgetful, but sometimes you get carried away in the moment and forget. And if you forget, then you run out of energy in the end. And of course these riders are taking a lot of energy on per hour. Still 15 degrees. So the amount of grams to body weights these riders try to take on. So if you're 70 grams, you're trying to take at least 70 grams of energy on, but now they're taking even more than that. I believe some riders trying to take at least up to 150 grams of carbohydrates on every hour. Not easy to do that. You have to train your body. So nutrition coming a long way from the days when I rode. And a lot of this nutrition is being used by all these top athletes. I still think there's a little bit of solid food still, especially in the Grand Tours. Of course, not everybody gets along with this type of nutrition. Another gel there can upset your stomach a little bit. Emiliano Avila, Greek rider. Actually, when we came up the climb earlier on, there was, I think it was about 1.5 to 2 kilometres to go. A Boogless fan was out there. I'm going to name him in case the authorities are listening, but he was spray painting Boogless's name. So a lot of support for the Greek riders in this race. And of course Boogless rides for a team in Spain, in Burgos. Another rider that would dearly love to feature in this race today. So again the gap coming down, 1:12 Been all about one man's work against the 9 in front. Next to Astana, showing that they don't really need to use Gleb Syriza. Of course, you wanted to give him as easy a ride as possible, because he might be sprinting tomorrow. Another sunny look at Galaxy Day out into the Gulf of Corinth. 130 kilometres long, minimum 8.4 kilometres, maximum 32 kilometres, 935 metres deep. So we are just, I think, 980 metres at the finishing line, so it just gives you an indication of how deep that is. And we rise up to Arankova, over 20 odd kilometres. Mentioned early on, if you're a fish fan, which I am, lots of sea bass, sea breams, sardines, snappers. So the last sprint of the day, that'll be coming up just under 28 kilometres, just over 6 kilometres time. And of course, every sprint so far in this race has been raced for. Not too sure how much we'll get today. Must be a little bit demoralising for these riders in the breakaway, knowing that they've only got just over, well, the board said, I think 1 minute and 13 or 15. You can see from a graphic 104, so they know that the opportunity to try and kind of win this stage is not going to be there. Matthias Avalts, a Belgian, the only Belgian in the Dutch team, of Park Hotel Valkenburg. Good sprint yesterday. He's ridden this race before. The best young rider, and of course in this race is under 23. He's just riding on the back. Just get through this race, this stage today. Mostly think of tomorrow. So 1 minute for the 9 riders in front of Cabas, Riska, Zabok, Sidlo, Hopsak, De Koiti at Nice, Pivalides, Vila, Bento. And if you just look at the above the screen, a lot of kind of dark clouds in the hills, but so far so good at the top of the climb here. It's still dry conditions. Gonzalez here, the Panama champion, just giving his gilet on back into the cab that he had on. Banging the legs there from one of the Astana riders. Sometimes difficult. You've been riding all day, riding in the wheels. They've not really been talking with each other. Back in the peloton, you get that opportunity. But when you're riding on the front in one line, not a lot of chit chat. We saw a lot of a talk between Lopez and Elise. Sometimes it can be lonely. It's funny saying that when you've got a bunch of cyclists round about you, but sometimes in stages it can be lonely at the fronts. You're listening to the radio a little bit, you know that you've got a job coming up, a big job at that, to try and help your teammates to the best possible plan of winning. More bars and gels, it's the rider it's talking about. You can see the purple helmets of his team. Burgess BH, Burglas. Just going back to the car before we start to head uphill. The gap coming down for the first time under 1 minute. The Breakaway did have around just 5.5 minutes at its maximum. This is Astanov coming board. Over the last hour and a half, the gap has come down about 4.5 minutes. It's only been one rider riding at the front. So we're only 5 seconds away from this man here in the reds, Zabok, losing his virtual lead. Starting the day the best placed of this group of riders, 50 seconds. I think his main aim was to try and take the King of the Mountains. He took some points from the Breakaway yesterday. He was second in the first King of the Mountains today. Third in the second. Now sits second in the general classification of the King of the Mountains. This young man does receive, win or not, does a lot of credit for what he's done today. Although I said not a lot to be gained, possibly from the 3-2-1 or the 3-2-1 seconds for all these riders. Still think they might race it. Hopsack, the rider in the green and black of the Park Hotel Valkenburg team, he won the first sprint. Another opportunity to take a bottle. Of course, the teams have limited personnel here, unlike some of the other races. From race leader and stage winner, Moschetti, he becomes domestic. Time to strip off gillies, rain jackets. We often see that the sprinter types will start to do their job, and just as I say that, I thought Glebsovitz had just gone to the front there, but no, he's still setting second place. But the race overall leader doing his job for his team today, even if it's just taking the gillies and rain jackets back to the car. Someone has to do it. So let's see who's interested in this sprint by the looks of things. Zabok and also Sidlow in the back there in the white are interested. Telltale sign there of Sidlow just went on to the drops. Normally these riders would be sitting on the hoods like the riders at the front, but it's a sign that you're looking to sprint. Not many people sprint on the hoods, so just going into the drops. Same with Zabok. Just looking at this sprint now. Not too sure. Hopsack is interested, and then again, as soon as I say that, in second place there, he looks to be the fastest man here. Goes on to the drop, so everybody apart from the Cointonese going on to the drop. So we are going to see a hotly contested sprint here for the 3, 2 and 1 seconds and points. And I think my money is on Hopsack, the Dutch rider. It's coming up imminently. He opens up. Zabok goes with him. I'm not too sure anybody's got the power to come round him. He won it quite convincingly in the first sprint. It looks as if he's going to take this one from the front and take it. And he does. Hopsack takes it from Zabok, with one of the riders from Hinklo just taking, and it was in fact, yeah, just confirmed, Hopsack, Vincent Hopsack takes the 3 points and 3 seconds. So doubling up today in the sprints. He took this one on from the front. Zabok in the reds tried to come over the top of him, and it was in fact Riska, the young Slovakian rider, that took third place. So far in this race, Zabok has been riding for everything. So from 50 seconds down at the start of the day, Zabok taking 2 seconds there, 48 seconds by 7 seconds. He's still virtually leading this race. So we've turned inland now, and it starts to drag up very, very gradually. They've done well, this group, but very difficult to see they're going to hold on much longer. I think it'll be a case of last man standing. Who's that going to be? So Vincent Hopsack of the Park-Hotel Valkenburg, 100% in the sprints today. Last chance for Jaco Lula, Michael Hepburn. They did a good job yesterday, along with Q36.5, but there could only be one winner. Who'd have thought? Snow in Greece. That was a nice tourist information bit there for Delphi. The name Delphi came from the Oracle of Delphi, the purveyor of truth. And the Oracle, Pythia, high priestess of the temple of Apollo. We see a crash here from one of the riders. One of the bike aid riders there has come off, unfortunately. Anton Lenneman, he was in the breakaway yesterday. So bars turned, and levers turned, so you just have to get the help of the mechanic here. So just a little bit more information about it. We just saw a glimpse of the temple of Apollo. I think we're just seeing it here, and it seemed to happen just in the background there. Not too sure if it's a touch of wheels or what happened there. I think this was the aftermath. The way he looked down there, I can think maybe on the gravel, just kind of banked it over a little bit in the gravel, but it wasn't an acute corner. So unfortunately for the man in the breakaway, he's got mechanical assistance and he'll soon be back, I think. But just getting back to Delphi, a beautiful little town. We just saw a glimpse of the temple of Apollo, dedicated to the god Apollo, known for archery, music, light, prophecy, arts and healing. Unfortunately, Theodosius the Great ordered its destruction in 390 CE. A long time ago. Is that a wave of we're not going to see you again for many of these riders? Thanks for coming. It's been good to see these riders in the breakaway and enjoying themselves, but they'll know at the back of their minds that it's day over for them. It's just over 40 seconds of an advantage, the peloton just behind. Yeah, last night we drove up here in the dark, never really saw too much. Made up for it this morning to see the temple of Apollo, and of course Delphi is only halfway up. Very touristy as you get up to Arankova. It feels a little bit like you're somewhere in the Alps in Switzerland. Very much a feel of snow. So for the first time today, you can see on the right hand side, Gleb Syriza is doing his job for the team. So are many others, as often we see in many bike races throughout the world. Important to start this climb from the fronts. But it doesn't narrow at all. So we got the main road the whole way up. Although, going through some of the towns, especially Delphi, it gets a little bit narrow. In the majority, it's good wide roads the whole way up this climb. So nothing really to worry about position. Moschetti there, the overall leader, in the cyan blue jersey on the left hand side, just doing his job for the team. He's already taken gillies and jackets back. Just wants to try and help as much as he can. Same you could be said for Gleb Syriza, third on the stage yesterday in the red jersey. A few riders starting to struggle already. Best young rider just at the back here Matthias Aviance. So it kicks up a little bit early on with about 8%. You see the original Breakaway just in front of them. And you would think that XTS Astana would continue to ride a good strong tempo on this climb. So it's been a good day out from the Breakaway. And Vila not giving up quite yet. So luckily for the riders, the roads are dry. We went through a couple of showers today. So Vila not giving up at all. Same could be said about Bento. For the X-Speeds, had been joined by the Cointonese. Some of the original Breakaway riders have given up though. And it's Gleb Syriza in the red jersey. We saw that little bit of kind of bunching up, trying to get position. But in these big wide roads, I don't think position was that essential. Plenty of room for movement. Plenty of kilometres to climb. And this climb isn't overly steep, it's just long, continuous. And of course we don't go all the way up this climb. We are finishing at Arankova. I believe there's another 20 odd kilometres up to the ski station, up about 2,400 metres, but we're only finishing just under 1,000 metres today. And I believe the reason being that it gets very narrow on the way up. Timothy Dupont on the left hand side there for Tartoletto, finished a good fourth yesterday, a 37-year-old. So having ridden all day in the peloton, looks as if Zabok is just stopping on the right hand side there, possibly just for a nature break, his day in the Breakaway. But look at the face of Gleb Syriza. Job done again for the race leader. As expected, he'll just ride his way to the top. Very good stage win for him. Did a lot of work for the team, but already you can see quite a few tired legs. So the pace has been up. The average pace has been high, and that's not going to stop these riders from trying to keep the pace as high. So the Breakaway have all been caught now. Gleb Syriza on the left in the red jersey, his job is done. And this is now a strong pace set by XTS Astana, and this is the reason why we're seeing so many riders now distanced out the back of the peloton now. So job done for third in the stage yesterday, Gleb Syriza. He sat all day behind his teammate Delavidov. You see the riders in the dark blue from the Czechia team, AT&T Investments. Also Unibet up there towards the front. Q36.5, still got the numbers there. So with the 19.4 to go, a long way to the top of this one. A very strong tempo being had. 21.9 length, said average 3.9, maximum goes up to 13%. But this is going to be a fast climb. As I said, not overly steep, a couple of steep pitches. I don't think nothing to worry about. One by one, the sprinters being distanced. This time, Dylan Groenewegen, the Dutch champion, got some help there from Campbell Stewart, who rode a lot of on the front yesterday. But this is the man that we're concentrating on, Harold Lopez, the Ecuadorian, and followed by two of the riders from AT&T. They had two riders in the breakaway, Rinko. They've got Ricardo Zoido, last year's winner. Not seen him yet. He'll be tucked away in this peloton. This is Simone Zanini at the front, the young Italian rider. I see a few riders just struggling at the back. Giannoutsos. As the rain starts to come down again. So this is a very strong tempo now. And they certainly mean business. This is Michael Kurkel, just behind Lopez for the AT&T Investments team. So we've got two riders there. No looking back at the scenery to where we've come. So this is a really strong tempo. Diego Lisi, faithful lieutenant by the sounds of things, just about to talk in his radio just to give instruction. It's a long way up this climb. Plenty of road space. There's still plenty of riders left at this moment. But they're not hanging around. You've got Simone Zanini here at the front, followed by Pierre-Henri Basset, Diego Lisi, Lopez, Kurkel. Just behind the AT Investments duo. You've got four riders there for Q36.5. But just look at the speed of these riders. They're not hanging about. They haven't been hanging about all day. Further back behind Q36.5, you've got the team of Unibet, Titama Rockets. So soon starting to hit some of these hairpins on the way up to Delphi. They will have a little bit of a respite before we continue up to Arankova. But so far, still a large group left at the front of this race. So initially we lost quite a few riders, but it seems to have settled down somewhat. A very strong pace from the XDS Astana lads.
Ja, begonnen weer live.
A little bit further back in the purple, you see the team of Luke Plapp. First time racing in Europe after finishing 6th in the Tour Down Under at the start of the season, so there is a little bit of a question mark on his form. On paper, he could be one of the favourites. So Simone Zanini keeping this strong tempo. done a good job so far today. But it is all about Harold Lopez. Diego Lisi, rolling back the years, would thrive on a stage like today. Just got that feeling, this strong tempo. How long can he keep this one going? Simone Zanini. You feel he's getting close. And he swings over to the right hand side. So job done by another young man, Simone Zanini. Almost coming to a standstill. On the right hand side there. So far so good for XTS Astana. And now it's up to the young Frenchman, Pierre-Henri Basset. And they really are using the riders up very, very quickly. The 21-year-olds recently won a stage of the Tour of Rhodes. So this is the last efforts here. You could just see it in his mannerisms. Swings over, job done. So he won the youth class in Tour of Rhodes. Won the last stage. He's ridden quite a few races this year. There's this young Frenchman at the front. The Lula Tour, where he finished 28th in general classification. But this is the man that they're riding for, Harold Lopez. Some battle scars on his face, you can see. But was there at Milano Torino. That was a tough finish, hard climb. So it's a case of, by the looks of things, how long can Basset do? What will Alesi do? Will he ride for Lopez? Do they have another tactic up the sleeve? It's just constant, this climb. 3, 4, 5, sometimes up to 8. Back down again. Oh! Unfortunately, they're just slipping out there. Was the young rider from Basset. I tell you what, Diego Alesi, more riders down. Just a panic behind. That's what causes it. One rider goes down, another touches the brakes, and such as these disc brakes, they just lock up straight away. So a few riders down. You can just see coming in, and you can hear the brakes, touching the brakes, just completely sliding out. Oh. Alesi went sideways there, manages to keep it up, but others panic behind. You see one rider goes down, everybody hits the brakes, bang. Concertina effects. They hit the deck. So unfortunately for XTS Astana, it's all looking good there. And all of a sudden, it's AT&T Investments, the Czechia team. Harold Lopez is there. Luke Plapp has been brought towards the front. Lopez is looking back to see where Diego Alesi is. That was really unfortunate. They'd done nothing wrong all day. They'd taken on the role of making this as hard as possible. Now we can see the riders just taking it a little bit more gingerly around these corners. As I said, this climb goes up in steps, a couple of small descents. Just unfortunately for a few of the riders behind, just that little bit of panic, just touching the brakes. Diego Alesi It's in the left-hand side there, so he's moved up. He went sideways, never hit the deck, but unfortunately for the young man Pierre-Henry Bassett, just when he was doing a good job, hits the deck. So a few riders being affected by that crash, including the Panama champion. Baptiste Houillet of the Unibet team. So although AT&T Investments have taken this up, you just feel that it's not fast enough, and that's the reason why Alesi's gone on the attack. They were trying to set this up. They will want to make it as hard as possible. With it not being hard enough, Alesi decides time to go. So just under 14 kilometres to the top of this climb. So this was the plan. They want to make it as hard as possible, realising this climb possibly not steep enough. But it doesn't matter how steep it is, it's how fast you go up the climb that matters in the end. So Diego Alesi called into action now, probably a little bit sooner than anticipated. He just felt that AT&T Investments, the Czechia team, came to the front, but it just wasn't hard enough. And Q36.5 quite intent in following this one. You see Michael Hepburn doing a job here in purple, looking after Plapp. Starting to thin out a little bit now, but not too much. Continue glancing behind for Alesi. But interesting to see who takes this one up, because it was clear that Alesi and XDS Astana want to make this ascent to the top of the climb here in Aranchova as difficult as possible. It was going all to plan until that crash. And now we're seeing other teams coming towards the front here. Q36.5 Unibet. Harold Lopez now undecided on what to do now. This climb up to Delphi, we're on possibly one of the kind of steepest pitches here, but 7-8%. Tartaletto get involved here. In fact, it's Vorarlberg. Too many yellow jerseys. So the team of Vorarlberg, they've got a few good climbers. And just looking in the rear of this group, starting to thin out a little bit more now. So Vorarlberg push on here at the front. We get a little bit easing in the group behind, and also on the gradient. And really easing behind, so allowing this rider a little bit of room now. This climb does ebb and flow all the way. So an opportunist move, bit of a reaction there from Q36.5. So nobody taking control of this race. Diego Alesi went to the front there. Very difficult to see, but in the green there, last year's winner, Ricardo Zoldo. He had two riders in the breakaway. One of the riders there from Q36.5 trying to come across to this rider here from Team Vorarlberg. So going from XDS Astana's control of this race, everything's gone out the window now. So Q36.5 followed by Tartaletto. And just coming into Delphi, so no time to look at any archaeology and do any shopping, straight through these narrow streets. And it is in fact Colin Stussy. So it's Colin Stussy for Team Vorarlberg, the 31-year-old. Just when there was a bit of a lull in the action. So as we come round here, just have to be aware, it flattens out a little bit here. Up to the left there is the school, and the tempo of Apollo is just up behind on the left hand side. So the tempo just off to the left, another tempo down towards the right hand side here. And we've got a little bit of a descent now. So Diego Lisi just at the front there of the group behind. They don't have the numbers left, already used up the riders they already have. So Stussy still alone by 9 seconds. Just make sure you get round this corner here. Past the roadworks, it still continues to descend before we climb up to Aranchova. Still a sizable group here. Ricardo Zoido just sitting and waiting, or is it a case of he doesn't have it? It's a rider from a Bikehead trying to come across as well. So pressure really is on XDS Astana. They've only got 2 riders here. So Colin Stussy, Swiss rider from the Vorarlberg team. And it's still Diego Lisi at the front of this group behind. Colin Stussy rode the Copa Bartoli, never finished. So maybe a bit of a surprise, but he did win the Tour of Portugal in 2023, which is a mean feat in itself. So he has got the credentials. Not too sure about the form, but he's looking good so far. Because the Tour of Portugal a couple of years ago, Tour of Portugal used to be a 3-week race in the past, but anybody that's ridden it, very, very tough race. Plenty of climbing in that as well. It's a rider here from Q36.5. It's Team Unibet Titama Rockets just behind. Again, a lot of looking around at each other in this group behind. So still 8.1 kilometers to go to the top. This race is not over yet. So seeing it's Calzone here.
Blank.
So Stussy, Swiss rider Calzone, and Calzone not getting anywhere near, not closing the gap at all. Now you get Unibet team looking behind still. Still a sizable group, you have to say, at this stage of the climb. Maybe it's because it isn't steep enough to split things apart. Here comes Harold Lopez. So Harold Lopez starting to make an effort now, and it's who can follow him. Plapp looks as if he's struggling now at the back. There was a question mark over what sort of form he's in. I think this might be answering it. So Lopez is coming. He's just behind the motorbikes there, through the middle of them. Comes up to Calzone. So this was the plan for XDS Astana. But Diego Lacey still there, still following. So he's got good legs as well. Calzone able to get onto the wheel of Harold Lopez. Stussy just hanging out there on his own. Still a long way to go to the top, 7.3 kilometres. I think Diego Elise will want to keep this one going. He's just on the right hand side. Keep the pressure on. It's clear that Elise and Lopez riding well, and that's what he does. Elise comes straight to the front, realises that there is a bit of a gap. Riders are starting to struggle. I have to respect this man here on the right hand side from Vorarlberg, the Swiss rider, Stussy. Just concentrating on his job. And Lopez goes again on the right hand side. So that effort there from Elise launches another attack from Harold Lopez. No reaction yet again from anybody. Don't think anybody can live with the Ecuadorian.
Oh, nice.
And I think the Ecuadorian will be up to Swiss rider very, very soon. Everybody's starting to look at each other now. Diego Elise propped on the front. He's got Unibet, Titema, Rockets. So Stussy sees him coming. 6.7 to go. And Stussy, for the first time in a couple of kilometres, will have company. So he just eases back. Harold Lopez goes straight past now. And it's a case of, just a little chat there, it's a case of what Stussy got left. Can he hang on? And now we're starting to see the effort now. Is this Plapp coming? I thought he was sitting a little bit too far back, and it is indeed. Former triple Australian champion. He was down the back of the group. This is his first race in Europe. Was he playing it cagey, sitting back, just waiting? Looks as if he was. So Luke Plapp coming across this gap quite easily, you have to say. Stussy riding with Lopez, but Plapp has come across that in no time at all. Just looks behind. And he does look good, Luke Plapp. Lopez, well, he's already been on the attack a few times. But look at the group behind. There must be still about 20 riders in this group behind. So they're still in contention. Q36.5. Lopez not intent in keeping riding here, the Ecuadorian. Stussy says, I'll do it. And then you get Q36.5 coming across the gap as well. So Luke Plapp came across, hasn't contributed. You can only think that he might go over the top now. Just waiting for the junction. A good moment to increase the tempo. But we're all together. A group of about 20 odd riders now. And Luke Plapp does what I said he would. Just waited for the junction. And goes alone, just looking at Harold Lopez. Does he have the legs? Maybe wanting Diego Elise to come to the front and try and close this one down. On paper, one of the favourites going into this stage. They lost out yesterday in the end. But Luke Plapp just waiting for this group to come back together. He didn't ride with Stussy and Lopez. And just Lopez looking back there. No reaction at all. So Luke Plapp has got 5.4 kilometres. And he's looking good. He came across that gap to Stussy and Lopez very well. And Diego Lacey's been forced into it. Again, as expected, Lopez not quite having the legs to go with Plapp. He did have 2-3 digs himself. And is it a case of possibly going too soon? Diego Lacey trying to drag everybody, including his own teammate here. Not too sure he'll want to do that. Everybody else just sitting on the wheels. Bit forced into it, you have to say. Stussy from Vorarlberg in the yellow, suffering a little bit, but you have to say he's done a good ride so far. Showed well, went on the attack, took his opportunity. But Luke Plapp, he does this so well. And here we go. He goes again on Lopez. Not too sure, maybe he get caught on the hop a little bit. Made a couple of big efforts, paid for it. Knows that this is the man to try and go with. And Harold Lopez, the Ecuadorian, trying to come across to the Australian. Luke Plapp. And Luke Plapp, he's got plenty of great performances in top races. In 2023 he was second in the UAE Tour. As I said, this year started the season in the Tour Down Under, where he finished 6th. And then he's taken a bit of a break, come to this race. Is this Stussy again? So Stussy for Vorarlberg, not giving up at all. So second in the stage of Paris-Nice, third in the stage of the Giro d'Italia for Luke Plapp. But this would be a good win for him, potentially setting up the overall. And Harold Lopez not getting close for the moment anyway. And it stays like this, it's a power climb. Stussy's caught from the group behind. Who else has got anything left? Still a group about 20 odd riders. I did think it was split up a little bit more. It just goes to show you that there's a lot of riders in that group behind, almost at the same level. So is this a race of 4 kilometres between Luke Plapp and Lopez? Now it's Tartaletto at the front of this group behind. But Luke Plapp just takes a glance behind. 19 seconds in this group. Unless anybody's got the legs, it could be over for them. Looks as if a lot of them are just happy. So are we seeing a pursuit? Normally we see a pursuit on the track of over 4 kilometres. But it looks as if we're going to get that on this climb up to Aranchova. Between an Australian and an Ecuadorian. Bikeades on the front now. So Diego Lacey for a stand-up, just stuck there. His teammates in front. So Luke Plapp accelerates again. 24 seconds now, but Harold Lopez, he's made so many efforts in this climb so far. He's closing the gap a little bit now. But I do think that he's in control. Just looking at Lopez there. I think he's looking back now, realising that the race is on now. I think he's trying to say to the motorbikes now that Luke Plapp was behind the motorbike, and he's unhappy about that. And this is Unibet Titema Rockets. They've got a few riders in this group. But look at that, 30 seconds now. The gap has opened. 3 kilometres to go. Still enough time for these riders, or some of these riders, to catch. But The gap still opening again, 31 seconds. It's a case of, can Harold Lopez get to Luke Plapp in the next 3 kilometres? And he really is fighting out the saddle. Luke Plapp came across to Stussy and Lopez, caught his breath again, and then when they came back together, he was straight over the top. Good tactic. And Lopez just can't get to grips with the Australian. Now the team of Unibet Titama Rockets have been forced into action, and these kilometres are ticking down. Lopez getting a little bit closer now, 5 seconds, 2.5 kilometres to get across here. Okay, there's some bonus seconds on the line, but you have to say that today is a big day. This is going to shape the general classification. I don't think we're seeing the last of Diego Elise. He'll be hoping maybe to grab some bonus seconds, maybe try and get 3rd place. Another reaction here. And is this Calzone again for Q36.5? It's a bigger group than I thought there would be with a couple of kilometres to go in this stage. But Lopez, he's got 2 kilometres, closing 1 more second now. Plapp not wanting him to catch, but that's the carrot there. It always seems to be a little bit easier to have that carrot in front of you. 3 seconds now, he's getting closer and he's making a big effort to get on. Will he pay for it? Oh, look behind and realise that Lopez is getting ever closer. As I said, such a big wide road up here. Look under his arm there from Luke Plapp. And although Harold Lopez in the saddle, out the saddle, he's closing this gap. Luke Plapp has not even looked round until now. Realises he's there. Is he going to make an acceleration? But the junction is there. What's Luke Plapp going to do now? So the two of them together, 1,500 metres to go. I can only think that Harold Lopez has made the most accelerations. Might be his style of climbing out the saddle, in the saddle. Luke Plapp does look as if he is a little bit smoother. So the two of them together, the Ecuadorian at the front there, they've got 28 seconds. You think it's kind of game over for the riders behind? Shake of the head there from Luke Plapp. Clearly feeling it, as everybody else is. Calzone here for Q36.5. I think too many riders here, completely on their limit now. I think the race is done for first and seconds, but there's an opportunity here for a good GC performance. Potential third on the stage. I don't think Luke Plapp is over yet. So as we lose the bike in the deviation there. This stage of 177.5 kilometres from Agrinio to Aranchova. The only mountaintop finish looks like it's going to be between Lopez and Luke Plapp. Lopez on the front, Plapp on the wheel. They can't mess about too much. They've done the hard work. They've got a bit of a gap now to the group behind, but the group behind are accelerating. We're inside the last kilometre now. What has Luke Plapp got left? What has Lopez got left? He's complaining about Plapp and the motorbikes in front of him. But we're going to have to wait. And it's going to be looks like a sprint finish between Plapp and Lopez. You see 500 metres to go now. So they're not going to be caught. So is it going to be disappointment for Jaco Alula again? 2 days in a row. Or does Plapp get anything left here? Lopez is not going to give up. He wants this stage. XDS Astana have ridden well today. They've controlled the whole race. 300 metres to go now. Luke Plapp is on the way, or Lopez. What's he got left? Lopez accelerating. Luke Plapp trying to get round him. Full on now. You can only think that Plapp, has he got anything left? He does have. He comes up the insides, barrier sides, round the final corner, and Luke Plapp is going to come up to take a good victory here, and he does. Luke Plapp, the Australian, just nips in front of the Ecuadorian Harold Lopez to take victory in the second stage here in the Tour of Hellas. Bunch coming in here, not that far behind, so this race isn't over yet. But what a finish there by Luke Plapp. He looked real smooth in the end. Just had enough to come up the inside and take victory. So a good stage win after second yesterday for Jaco Alula. Harold Lopez, after riding all day, XDS Astana, finishes in second place. And it looked as if it could be Thomas Priedel, the Czechia champion, that finished in third place there. So after disappointment yesterday for Jaco Alula, they get their win today, courtesy of Luke Plapp, the 24-year-old from Australia, and he will take the lead in this Tour of Hellas into stage 3. So a good finish to this stage. Still a lot of riders in contention in that second group there. As the riders continue to come in, Samudio there for Lucian Tech. Michael Hepburn coming in there. Now that they lead the race, and we see the so it's an acceleration here of Harold Lopez. Good acceleration up the inside. Always, he never closed the door there. He could have done, Lopez. That gap was big enough for Luke Plapp to go round the shortest way around the corner. Such a small straight in the end. Good win from Plapp. Bit of a disappointment there from Lopez after all the work that XDS Astana has done all day. You have to say that Luke Plapp looked good in that climb. Harold Lopez, well, he'll fight another day. It's always disappointment when your team ride on the front all day. It's a lot expected of you. Yesterday they did nothing. But just looking round at that replay there, the bunch weren't that far behind. So just when we thought coming in that the race leads between Lopez and Plapp could be around the 30-second mark, it can only be about 15 seconds. 9 seconds to the end. So Luke Plapp takes stage 2 of the Tour of Hellas from Harold Martin Lopez from XDS Astana. It's Marcin Buzinski taking third place for AT&T. Thomas Priedel was up there as well for Elko. Diego Lacey in 5th place. Andre Marais. Marcel Camprubi. Gianni Marchand in 8th place. Rounding off the top 10. So the riders will continue to come in. To average today 38.4 as we look at a little bit of a soggy Aranchova. Here we go again. This was after Lopez had attacked. Plapp had gone across to Stussy and Lopez. All came back together and Plapp went alone. A lot of looking behind from Lopez. Bit of indecision. For most riders behind, they looked as if they were on their last legs, but Lopez, after a long fight, managed to get up to the race leader, Luc Plapp, within the last couple of kilometres, led out the sprints, left enough space in the inside for Plapp to come through, and that was enough. Didn't have to ask twice, and Luc Plapp comes round the final corner and takes a much wanted win. His first win of the season. Very, very disappointed was Harold Lopez. So another group finishing here. Of course, as I said in commentary, this climb continues up. It continues up to the Parnassos ski centre. So if you're interested in skiing or snowboarding and you want to look at somewhere else, why not come to Aranchova? So I believe we're just waiting to hear from Luc Plapp, just pulling on some warm clothing. It's been pretty dry all day here in Aranchova, but here's your race winner. So it sits at 960 metres. It's known as the Mykonos of winter. So many people come here and enjoy themselves. Just have that alpine feel about it. Close your eyes and you would think you were in Switzerland, in the Alps somewhere. And if you like food, the Aranchova Formula, cheese, hearty homemade dishes, locally produced, Sapporo. Here we see it again, the moment that Luc Plapp, he looked behind, it all come back together. Lopez had made a few efforts. Made the effort. No one reacted initially. But as we know, Lopez got his breath back a little bit. He'd already made it a few attacks himself. Went after Plapp. Eventually managed to catch him. Quick chat. We ride. And then it was man against man in the sprint to the line. And the inside track was the quickest, and so was Luke Plapp. Very disappointed. Harold Lopez had to settle for second place. But for Harold Lopez, that was a big opportunity. We do have the Queen stage still to come, with the most metres gained in the stage, but with a downhill finish. The second category climb before it, on the form that Luke Plapp has shown. It's going to be very difficult to dislodge him. So 4 seconds will separate those two. And in fact, Lopez will be a race leader. Luke Plapp lost some time yesterday in the run in towards the finish. To my apologies. Our race winner will be Luke Plapp, but our GC leader will be, in fact, Harold Lopez. Luke Plapp in second place, Zabolensky in third. So it is all to play for. Dylan Grunewagen, he'll be happy. His teammate won the stage. So there's some riders just losing a little bit of time because of the crash yesterday. Luke Plapp finished 17 seconds behind, so lost 7 seconds to Harold Lopez. So only 3 seconds between Plapp and Lopez, so still all to play for in this race. It ain't over. And we consider that the other riders aren't that far behind. The group of Gleb Syriza coming up to finish their day. It's a tough finish for many of these riders. You see Avant's the best young rider on the right hand side. Well, he'll lose that jersey. Just bear with us. We'll be quickly going to the podium soon. I'll change in the general classification. This is one of the men of the day. A young XDS Astana rider. Alessio Delavidov. Pretty much controlled the breakaway on his own all day. So well done, that man. Good effort. And it was a hard effort for him. Might not have to do as much tomorrow. I think the sprinters teams will try and control things for a potential sprint, but pretty sure we'll see a little bit more of Alessio Delvidov. So just confirming the stage result again. Luke Plapp, Harold Lopez, Marcin Baczynski, 1, 2, 3. And your general classification: Harold Lopez 3 seconds on Lucas Plapp, Bogdan Zabalenskaya 15 seconds. So 15 seconds covers the top 10. Still a lot to play for. Still a little bit damp here in Arrancover, but what will brighten us up is the podiums, which will be with us very, very soon.